and asked him again to drop it, but he didn't. And then when I reapproached, he actually lunged at me. I actually didn't want to shoot him, so what I did was instead I shot at the refrigerator to give him a warning shot. In the morning, I would just sit and watch news with my earphone and so on. And then I saw him coming behind me. He had this weird smile on his face, and then he would just somehow I guess we were arguing verbally as well, and then he would come and just take an earphone off my ear. I guess he was just trying to annoy me. We were having a heated conversation verbally, so I got up, and then I did the same thing, which I just flicked his glasses off his face, which I didn't expect. After that, he literally, tried to swung at me, and then he did catch me on my left side. So I was trying to defend myself, so we did get into a physical altercation, and then I would say, a couple of punches were thrown. Still remember his face when I punched him, and then I looked at his face and he had this rage. And then I knew something was up, and as soon as that happened, he turned around and then he went back room, which is a kitchen. I was afraid that he was going to grab perhaps like a kitchen knife or something, otherwise because I know for a fact that when I saw his face, he wasn't, he wasn't running back to retreat. So I followed him back and then see what he was up to. And then when I saw him, he had a chair over his head, willing to struck me with it. At that moment, I knew I had to defend myself and do something. So what I did was I withdrew my weapon, I pointed at him, and I told him to stop and drop. And I said that he wouldn't drop, so I retrieved a couple of steps back and asked him again to drop it, but he didn't. And then when I reapproached, he actually lunged at me. I actually didn't want to shoot him, so what I did was instead I shot at the refrigerator to give him a warning shot. When police arrived, basically they separated us, and then I guess they did interview us, and I did explain what had happened. What they did was they put me on handcuffs, and then they told me that I need to go to the precinct. At that moment, thank God, it did come to my mind, so I reached out to Peter. And then after I spoke to the law firm, I was so relieved because I knew I was in good hands.
In pretty much every state in the union, there is concealed carry insurance available to people who carry guns or want to insure themselves in the event that they're involved in a self-defense incident. About 10 years ago or so, those companies were operating just fine in New York, and Governor Cuomo decided to throw them out of New York. And he called it murder insurance, said it was illegal, and they stopped functioning in New York. So for many years, New Yorkers had no avenue to protect themselves in the event they were involved in a self-defense incident. And New York is a very hostile place for people who want to defend themselves. So I would argue that you probably need it the most here, and the government wasn't allowing people to get it. Well, we had this concept back then that we could reinvent this as a prepaid legal plan, make it totally legal in New York, offer much of the same options and much of the same coverage that the insurance companies were offering. The problem was that we're a busy law firm, and when are we ever going to do that? So back in March of 2020, the court shut down. We were sitting home, and this was my lockdown project, and we built out NY Tac Defense. And what we built out was a prepaid legal plan for New York self-defenders and New York gun owners, custom tailored for New Yorkers in particular. So very recently we had a situation, we actually just resolved it, and we resolved it in our client's favor. We got a complete dismissal for our client, but he was an enrolled client in NY Tac Defense, and he was involved in a self-defense incident. These incidents can come up very unexpectedly. He made a call, we jumped into action. I immediately called the man's wife because we maintain an emergency contact number for all of our clients. We arranged with a bail bondsman and his wife to be in court the next day for the arraignment, and we were there waiting for him to get arraigned. We were able to get him out on his own recognizance the next morning, and then we had a fight on our hands. Right? This is New York, and this man discharged a firearm in Brooklyn, New York, not something that's tolerable. Luckily, everything was captured on video, and after about a 6-7 month fight, we were able to get all the charges dismissed. When you find yourself charged with a felony in New York because you discharged a firearm, the level of anxiety, the level of fear that you could lose everything, that you could go to state prison in New York, is terrifying. And it makes it hard to wake up in the morning. The nice thing about our client in this case was we gave him confidence right away. We had the videos, we analyzed the videos, and we felt pretty confident in our position. So I think from the beginning, he felt like he had the right team in place, and we were confident, which gave him the confidence. But I'm sure in the back of his mind, he always wondered what would happen until he finally got that dismissal. He always wondered if he was going to lose everything.
Just the fact that you have a person who cares about you and who is also a gun owner himself is out there trying to defend people who are doing the right thing. Even though you have a weapon and you have a carry license, how could you defend yourself if you realize that the government or the whole prosecutor is against you and you have nobody to defend on your behalf? When I ended up in Peter's office, I was just waiting to speak to him. Seems very caring to what happened, you know, and then he told me that I would be okay, and that totally relieved all stress. And then, you know, when I walked out of his office, I feel like I was being a new man. Thank God I had a retainer with his firm. Otherwise, I would have to come up with $70,000 retainer just to take the case. I take this as one of my greatest experience, learning curve period, because from what happened, I learned so much.